that you are required to do, what do you do? Right? I mean, let's say you go to the hostel after classes. What do you do? I mean, do you like to just sit in the room and watch movies, or do you want to go out and play, or do you read books, or do you talk to your friends? I think any activity that you undertake which you're not required to undertake is probably a clue about what you want to do. I mean, just as an example, when I was in school, I think I spent every waking moment reading books, right? So I should have figured out then that what I like to do is something to do with writing. And I did know that, but I still, unfortunately got into IIT through JEE. So, so I was forced to take a career route, that I couldn't deviate from afterwards. But that's okay. I mean, you can do a job, but you can still take time to do stuff that you enjoy doing. Right?
That's I think extremely important, guys. So the point is not to make us feel that we are in a path chosen by our brain power or our parents, and I can't deviate from it. What I said is great. Step one, how to identify what you love the most is if you can get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I'm not going to go to bed until I fix this bug on alertpedia.com, then that means you love doing it, right? That's essentially what I said is, if nobody requires you to do it, but you still want to do it in the middle of the night, absolutely. And maybe there is a clue there. Maybe it's reading books, but really it could lead to a literary career. Maybe you want to be a book critic, you want to be a book writer, publisher, whatever, but something to do with books in that case. The clues are there here and there. The nice thing about this, like Professor said, is this is not like a blue pill, red pill. Never even entertaining such a thought and saying, okay, I can try learn something new. I mean, at this stage, you guys should not have that. You should not have that problem at all, right? You have the whole life ahead. So think about it. I think I actually didn't know that answer. I think that's the best answer, right? What do you do when nobody is asking you to do something? There's probably a hint there. You guys agree with that?
Yes.
Fantastic. I know if I had that, I probably would have been a table tennis player.
You get bogged down and you end up solving those only which you can, which you think you can. So that's how you probably start with your problem set. Do you have any suggestions? For example, if once you put the picture of the problem, the instant you put up the picture, the first thing I saw was the traffic, and that's always what I think. I mean, we should solve it, but you probably don't know how to go about it. It's too big, so you end up looking at problems which you can solve with what you've learned. So do you have something to say about it?
Fantastic question. I think I'll just give you my view of the answer. There's nothing right or wrong about these things, right? So the way I look at it is, even if I start with a very specific problem, okay, I'll give you my one example, right? So the problem in alertpedia.com for me was, what I observed is, every time I needed to know when somebody is selling a bicycle in New Jersey at that time I was living, I needed to go to Craigslist and search. Right? It happens for a day, it happens for 2 days. I'm doing it every day, I'm feeling like a loser at the end of it, right? So I said, okay, this is not the right thing. I need to write a little hack to parse Craigslist and send me an alert. Okay, fair? So that's a very specific problem. And at the same time, this was around 2005 when the tsunami happened, and 300,000 people died. Right? It was very close to home in Chennai, right? And my wife and I were living in New Jersey at that time, and we said, we are hackers, why can't we do something about this? So we said, let's set up a little service called Alert Earth at that time, which scans 50 different websites about earthquakes and sends out alerts to people. Very specific idea. But I would not stop there. So to come back to your question, the way I would do it is start with a specific problem. But think, even before you build it up, think about kind of the most general version of it. Okay? The most general version of that for me is, in the future, people don't need to go to the web to search. The web will come to them with the right information. So that's a web I imagine in the future. So I have that vision, but I'm not building that vision because, like you said, it's way too complex. But to get there, I need to do step 1, earthquake, step 2, Craigslist, and then slowly generalize it to every possible website in the world. So take space. So think of a big mission. Don't stop with a mission of, let me just solve the Craigslist problem. Think of a very big mission like, I'll save lives, save time for people by turning this whole web model around. But don't solve it in day one. Day one, solve the specific first problem, which is earthquake, and then Craigslist and so on. Fair? So think big, but start with very specific steps towards it. So your first problem should be small, because you can solve it, you can try it out with people, and then see if it's actually solving their problem. You guys agree with that? Simple, straightforward, right? Yeah. I had one more question.
Doing a project, and then in middle, like you've many times figured that people lose enthusiasm in your team. So then how to reignite the fuel Like,
So that is the problem we face, like while taking projects, like many
Your
times.
project mates are around. Okay, good. Your question is, how do you motivate people?
Exactly. So like in our group, everyone does not have the same kind of thinking, but you can't remove someone from your project group, like at least in the undergraduate level. So like how do you energize the project?
So a lot of nice things coming out. Good. Okay. How do you energize? How do you motivate? This, by the way, sir, it should be a separate talk about, because one of the things that we do when we are running teams, probably the biggest, 90% of my job is doing this, right? How do you keep people motivated so that they, if you take a bunch of researchers and if they don't solve the problem, I'll just kind of generalize your problem, right? They work on it for 6 months, nothing's happening, they kind of start losing motivation, and then you have to figure out on how to keep this lab running, right? So motivation is a very big thing. There is the 2 or 3 things I learned about motivation that work for people. Okay, one, bribe. No, just kidding. Okay, that doesn't work. Giving money doesn't work. Even with employees, giving money can only go so far towards motivating, right? And obviously in the project setting, I hope that's not an option at all. But the really 2 or 3 things that seem to motivate people. One, people should feel that what they are creating, what they're doing, is making a difference somewhere. Okay, so if I just put a rat on a treadmill and keep running, after a while, you'll figure out that this is not making a difference to anyone, and people lose interest. So ask this question: in your project, are you doing something where somebody feels that it's actually making a difference to someone, whether to a grade or whether to the world? Is it making a difference by putting in that extra effort, or is it just pointless? Whatever I do anyway doesn't matter because somebody else is doing the real work. Okay, so sometimes people lose motivation because they're not working on meaningful things. The second thing that a lot of people have observed motivates humans is autonomy. And autonomy means the freedom to do what they want. So if I take 2 smart people and I tell one person and give them the same problem to both of them and tell this person, go solve the problem and come, right? And to the second person, I say, here is a flowchart, 55 steps, one of them including pressing on Excel, go solve and come back. You are almost certain that the first person will solve it better and faster. Because people are more motivated when they feel that they're given that freedom to think differently. So I forget a third, but these 2 are useful things. Okay, good. So we are growing past the time. I don't mind, but 2 more.
2 more questions.
Yeah, we'll take that.
say for example, you want to solve the traffic problem. Do you think it makes more sense to say join a company like Google, use their resources, and use the 20% time that they give you for your own work to like build up real products rather than starting from scratch? And 2, are there companies in India which kind of like encourage entrepreneurial spirit?
Okay, so great question. The first one, it will be unfair for me to say yes or no about Google because depending on who you talk to, that 20% is typically used to doing things that are still in line with what the company wants to do. It may not be your main project, but you're still doing something very relevant. So if what you want to do is not at all relevant to what Google wants to be, then it probably is not a good answer, good solution. But if what you're doing is a better search, better traffic, human search thing that you could not do it outside, but you need the scale of Google to do it, absolutely Google is the right way to do it. So it's a matter of alignment with the company, right? What you don't ever want to be doing is joining a company and thinking that you'll have 20% extra time to do something totally independent. That's very rare. Very few companies that let you quote unquote moonlight like that, right? You agree? So if your idea is fairly aligned and the company permits you to do, like Google, go for it. The idea is very different, then you're probably wasting time joining any company that's not aligned. Now, what is your second question?
Companies that encourage entrepreneurial spirit, like say you suddenly come up with an idea, do they like allow you separate? Given that, say for example, I could solve this traffic problem using Google Maps and like GPS tracking, smartphone tracking. So it is implementable. Say I propose that to a system. So are there companies which encourage, like fund you and encourage on?
Absolutely. I think I can tell you many companies, Google, Philips, all of these companies talk a lot about encouraging entrepreneurship inside. But I can tell you more concretely what we do in Bell Labs, right? In Bell Labs until 2005, there was a very simple model. There are 2,000 researchers, they come up with ideas, and if that idea is relevant to the company and it makes money, somebody will build it and turn it into a product. That is and pretty much 99% of the companies work like that. Ideas, some of them get filtered and built up. And the frustration for me as a researcher was that many of the ideas that are coming up with, which I felt were really good, and friends felt were good too, but the company said these are good, but they're not relevant to my immediate goals right now. And many of these ideas were getting killed at that point. So what we did in 2005 is we started something called Bell Labs Ventures. Essentially, think of it like a venture capitalist sitting inside the company. And the whole mission was if somebody has an idea and they come up with a new idea, then this venture group will fund them for 3 years to turn that into a product. And at the end of and still within the company, but at the end of the 3 years, so I did this, right? I did GeoPepper, where I founded the venture with the idea, but I had the business manager, I had the development team. At the end of the 3 years, the company asks a simple question: can we now use this as a product? If it cannot, can I spin this off? In my case, it became a product inside, but we also spun out companies in that case. So absolutely, I mean, that is a model. We definitely do it in Bell Labs, but Philips and others are also trying to do different versions of it. Okay, so I think a great question, but I'll stop there. Thanks so much. Really, really enjoyed being here, guys.